"Wake up, Mama," chirped 7-year-old Lena, tugging lightly at her mother's pillow. Her laughter bubbled like sunlight breaking into their tiny apartment. "We'll be late for the park." Maya groaned softly, rolling to her side as the thin curtains let streaks of morning light flood their modest one-bedroom flat in Harmony Crescent. "I remember, my darling," she murmured, voice heavy with sleep. "Go on, get dressed. Mama's getting up now." With a grin, Lena skipped toward the wooden wardrobe, pulling out her sunflower dress and her famously mismatched socks. Maya dragged her tired limbs toward the bathroom. Her joints ached, exhaustion etched deep into her body, but her heart softened instantly whenever she looked at Lena. At the mirror, Maya caught her reflection, tired eyes, soft lips, a faint smile. Only 24, yet life had aged her faster than she could admit. She remembered 7 years ago, the day her older sister, Celine, had appeared unannounced, a baby swaddled in a faded blue cloth clutched in her arms. "I can't do this. I'm not ready to be a mother," Celine had said flatly, pressing a birth certificate into Maya's hand, already filled out with Maya's name. Then she was gone, the slam of the door echoing abandonment. Back then, Maya had been in her 3rd year of medical school, juggling endless lectures and night shifts. But the moment Lena arrived, she gave it all up without hesitation. Dreams deferred, textbooks abandoned, motherhood became her purpose. She had never regretted it. Though she had never known a man, choosing to preserve her purity for the one she would one day marry, Maya embraced the struggles of motherhood with quiet dignity. Lena was her joy, her reason for living. High above the city, on the top floor of a gleaming office tower, Darius Okafor stood still, staring at Lagos sprawling beneath him. Cars snarled in traffic, voices buzzed along the sidewalks. The city vibrated with a rhythm he never quite connected with. At 28, Darius had already built an empire. Though born into privilege, he had revived his father's failing real estate business and transformed it into a tech-driven powerhouse. Every success bore his imprint. Failure wasn't a word he allowed in his vocabulary. Yet, standing by his sleek glass desk, staring into a cooling cup of coffee, all he felt was emptiness. Loneliness had become a shadow he could no longer ignore. 3 secretaries in 1 month had failed him. Each one dazzled more by his wealth and presence than the work itself. At 6'2" with commanding looks and deep pockets, attention was unavoidable, but Darius was tired of being admired for everything except who he really was. Without another thought, he grabbed his blazer and left his office. For the first time in a year, he stepped into the cafe downstairs, a place he'd never noticed despite walking past daily. Kareem's coffee house buzzed with chatter and the warm smell of baked goods. Maya, just finishing a rushed shift after her morning at the park with Lena, tightened her apron and spotted him immediately. Tall, sharply dressed, a figure that shifted the very air. She approached with her notepad. "Good morning, sir. Welcome to Kareem's coffee house. What would you like?" When he turned, for a heartbeat, the world paused. She wasn't dolled up, nor fishing for attention, but her natural beauty struck like lightning. Her skin glowed, her hair puffed simply, her eyes carried untold stories. "Black coffee," Darius replied curtly, though inside, his chest stirred. Maya nodded, walked away without another word, and returned with the drink minutes later. He took a sip and froze. Strong. Bold. Perfect. Watching her retreat, Darius whispered under his breath, "She's an angel, and she makes damn good coffee." The night air in Harmony Crescent was cool as Maya stepped out of the cafe, clutching a small pink box with both hands. Inside lay a simple vanilla cake, swirled with buttercream and Lena's name carefully iced on top. Tomorrow would be her daughter's 7th birthday. There would be no balloons, no lavish party, just love, a meal, and a memory worth keeping. Her shift had stretched late again. After the customers left, she mopped floors and stocked shelves. Her feet ached inside worn sneakers, her stomach growled from skipping dinner, but none of it mattered. The cake was for Lena. As she walked down the dimly lit street, the hum of an engine broke the quiet. A sleek black Mercedes slowed to a stop just ahead. Maya's heart thudded. Cars like that didn't belong here. The back door opened. A familiar voice called out, "Get in." She froze under the street lamp. Darius emerged, sharp as ever in his dark attire, shadows of authority and intrigue around him. She hesitated. "Seriously," he pressed, his gaze scanning the street. "Get in before those drunkards notice you." Only then did she see a staggering group of men spilling noisily from a nearby bar. Their laughter turned harsh, unpredictable. Without another word, Maya slipped into the car. "Where to, madam?" the driver asked. Harmony Crescent. By the small white mosque, she replied softly. Darius leaned slightly toward her. What's in the box? She looked down at it and smiled faintly. A cake. For Lena. She turns 7 tomorrow. I won't be at work, so I picked it up tonight. You're a mother. His voice carried genuine surprise. Maya chuckled. Doesn't look like it. It does, he said, tone softening. You've got that quiet strength. A small pause lingered before his lips curved. So, am I invited? She laughed, half amused. To a tiny cake party with my daughter and our neighbor, Mrs. Bello? Not exactly your kind of scene. I've been to worse, he teased. All right then. You're invited. When she gave her name, he blinked. You really don't know who I am. Should I? She asked honestly. I'm Darius. She tilted her head. Still doesn't ring a bell. His low chuckle filled the car. It had been years since anyone looked at him without calculation or awe. When they arrived, she whispered a soft thank you and stepped out, holding her cake close. Darius remained in the car, watching until she disappeared behind the compound gate. Inside, Maya collected Lena from Mrs. Bello, who was already in her nightgown. The little girl was fast asleep, her cheeks flushed. Maya carried her to bed, kissed her forehead, then showered before collapsing onto her own mattress. But sleep wouldn't come. Darius's face lingered in her mind, his voice, his steady gaze, the way he looked at her as if she mattered. In his penthouse, Darius sat silently, fingers grazing his phone screen where her number glowed newly saved. She didn't know who he was. She hadn't flinched at his wealth or power. That made her rare and unforgettable. She's different, he whispered to himself, eyes fixed on the Lagos skyline. And I'm not letting anyone else find her first. By dawn, Maya was already awake. The apartment buzzed quietly as she tiptoed around, preparing for the day. Today wasn't just any day, it was Lena's birthday. 7 years of love, tears, and resilience wrapped into one bright little girl. She nudged her daughter awake. Sweetheart, go stay with Mama Bello for a while. Mama has to run to the market. Still heavy with sleep, Lena nodded, clutching her teddy before padding next door. The moment the door closed, Maya retrieved the cake from the freezer, set it gently on the center table, and pulled a plastic bag from under the couch. Inside were red balloons, a foldable happy birthday banner, and streamers. With trembling fingers, she blew each balloon, taped them around the room, and hung the banner proudly. Jollof rice simmered in one pot, pepper chicken bubbled in another. By 8 a.m., the apartment smelled like celebration. When she finally dressed in a sunny yellow gown and light gloss, her best friend Kimi arrived with her niece Fola. Happy birthday to the princess. Kimi sang. Maya pulled her aside nervously. Don't panic. Darius is coming. Kimi's eyes widened. As in tall, rich, ridiculously fine Darius. That one. Maya nodded sheepishly. He asked. I didn't know how to say no. Before Kimi could respond, a knock sounded. Darius stood at the door, polished as ever, holding 2 boxes. For the birthday girl, he said, handing Maya the larger one. And this, he added, offering the smaller box, is for you. Me? She asked, stunned. He smirked. No one ever remembers the mother. Her heart fluttered. Minutes later, Lena entered in her red rhinestone dress. When she saw the decorated room, her mouth fell open. Mama, you did all this. Happy birthday, my love, Maya said, smiling through tears. Lena threw her arms around her. I thought we weren't celebrating this year. You said money was tight. I'll always find a way for you, Maya whispered. Lena opened Darius's gift, a fully furnished dollhouse, and squealed, hugging him tight. Thank you, Uncle Darius. He laughed, holding her gently. Glad you like it, princess. From the couch, Maya watched with softened eyes. Lena's laughter, Darius's ease, it was everything. The next morning, Maya rushed into Kareem's coffee house, nearly an hour late, her chest rising and falling from the brisk walk. Lena had woken with a slight fever, and Maya had spent the early hours sponging her daughter's skin and soothing her before leaving her with Mama Bello. She barely tied her apron before the storm hit. Why are you strolling in late like you own the place? Bellowed Mr. Kareem from behind the counter. His voice sliced through the cafe chatter, heads turning. I don't know why I tolerate your laziness, he sneered. I should have replaced you months ago. Heat rose to Maya's cheeks. She clenched her fists, swallowing her pride. She said nothing. Then Kareem smirked. Funny thing, though. The office across the street, the one with that flashy young boss? He asked for you. Wants you to bring him coffee every morning, 9 sharp. Me? Maya blinked. Exactly what I asked myself. But the man pays, so don't ask stupid questions. Go. Without another word, Maya grabbed the insulated flask, tightened her apron, and stepped into the sun. The building across the road gleamed like a glass monolith. Wealth seemed to seep from its very walls. Inside, the receptionist barely looked up, simply waving her toward the elevator. On the executive floor, silence pressed in. Maya reached Darius's door, hand raised to knock, when a sharp voice sliced through the air. And who do you think you are? A tall woman with perfect braids and piercing eyes stepped out, arms crossed. Maya faltered. I was asked to deliver coffee to Mr. Darius. Excuse you, the woman snapped. Did you just say his name without adding sir? Who do you think you are? Maya shrank back, cheeks burning. He asked me. The woman advanced, her hand lifting as though to strike. Maya flinched. Enough. The single word froze the air. Darius stood behind his furious assistant, arms folded, expression like carved stone. Pack your things, he said coldly. You're done here. Her eyes widened. Darius, please. I've been waiting for a reason to fire you. You just gave it. You don't speak to her like that. You don't touch her. With a curt signal, security appeared, escorting the stunned woman away. Maya remained rooted, heart hammering. Come in, Darius said gently, holding the door open. She stepped inside, still shaken. He poured her a glass of water and motioned for her to sit on the soft leather couch. Sorry you had to go through that, he said, his voice warm now. Some people think power gives them permission to be cruel. I don't. They sat in silence for a while. No pressure, no expectations. Just enough words to calm her nerves. From that morning, delivering coffee at 9 wasn't just a task, it became a ritual. Some days Maya lingered for a chat, other days only briefly. But Darius always asked how Lena was doing, if Maya needed anything, what her weekend plans were. Routine soon shifted into something more. People noticed. The cafe staff whispered, his employees exchanged glances, but neither Maya nor Darius cared. Every evening, his black car pulled up outside Kareem's cafe. Sometimes he chatted with Mimar Bello, sometimes he brought sweets or books for Lena. But always, he was there. Not just present, becoming part of their small world. Quietly, without saying it, he had become Maya's favorite part of her day. Friday nights were usually unremarkable for Maya, dinner, chores, lullabies for Lena. But this one felt different the moment Darius's car stopped outside the cafe. She slid into the passenger seat, greeted by his calm smile. No words were needed. His presence alone had become her peace. When they arrived at her flat, she expected him to say goodnight as usual. Instead, he followed her inside, holding a small teddy bear wrapped with a red bow. Someone's been waiting for you, Maya teased, her smile blooming. As if on cue, Lena peeked from the hallway, eyes lighting up. Uncle Darius, she squealed, dashing forward. This is for you, he said, kneeling to present the teddy. Every princess needs a guardian. Lena giggled, hugging it tight. Read to me, please. He glanced at Maya for permission. She nodded, heart swelling. Moments later, she peeked into Lena's room, Darius seated on the tiny bed, reading with tender calm. Lena, curled beside him, was fast asleep by the time the story ended, Teddy clutched tightly. He adjusted her blanket and kissed her forehead. I could get used to this, he whispered. Back in the living room, Maya curled on the couch, watching a flickering TV. When Darius returned, he sat beside her. They laughed softly, exchanged glances, and slowly, something unspoken filled the room. Halfway through an episode, his fingers brushed hers. Maya, he whispered. Can I kiss you? She hesitated, thoughts tumbling, then his lips met hers. Soft at first, then deeper, urgent, as though he had waited too long. When he finally pulled back, breath uneven, he chuckled lightly. I just stole your first kiss. She smiled shyly, heart racing. His gaze grew serious. I've been crazy about you since the moment I saw you. Not just your beauty, but your strength, your spirit. When I met Lena, I knew, I want both of you. You're a package deal. And I want it all. Her lips parted, stunned. She nodded quickly. Use your words, he teased gently. Yes, she breathed. I'll go on a date with you. The morning sun poured gold over Freedom Park, children running and laughing across the grass. In the middle of it all was Lena, spinning in circles with her new teddy bear, a crown of beads glittering in her braids. Beside her, in a plain white t-shirt and joggers that somehow looked expensive, Darius chased her dramatically, stumbling on purpose to keep her giggling. "Come back here, little rascal," he laughed, bending over as though exhausted. Maya sat under the shade of a mango tree, barefoot in her sundress, smiling more freely than she had in years. She couldn't remember the last time she had felt so light, like the world had slowed just for her. Darius wasn't just pretending to play dad. He was becoming one. Eventually, he caught Lena, scooped her up, and set her gently beside Maya. "Uncle Darius can't catch me," Lena boasted proudly. Maya chuckled. "That's because you're too fast." "She's got legs like lightning," Darius admitted, grinning. "Me, I'm getting old." They shared puff-puff and cold water from a vendor nearby, content in their own little bubble. But what touched Maya even more was the quiet change in Darius. Once, he'd told her flatly, "Church isn't really my thing." She hadn't pushed, but gently invited him to join her and Lena occasionally. At first, he sat stiffly, checking his watch. By the third visit, his posture softened. He listened, nodded at sermons, asked questions afterward. Soon, he was donating, not just money, but time. Anonymous gifts to orphanages, repairs to old buildings, sponsoring food drives. Not for show, out of conviction. One Saturday evening, he stood beside Maya in her tiny kitchen. She stirred a bubbling pot of vegetable soup while he rinsed leaves carefully, determined not to get it wrong. "You're taking soup making too seriously," she teased. "Told you I learn fast," he smirked, then his tone deepened. "Maya." She turned, sensing weight in his voice. "Would it be too soon if I asked you to meet my parents?" The spoon paused mid-stir. "Your parents?" He dried his hands, stepped closer. "I'm not playing games. I love you. I want them to meet the woman who changed my life." Maya's heart skipped. His family, the Okafors, prestigious, wealthy, polished. She thought of her modest flat, second-hand clothes, the gulf between their worlds. "I don't know if I'm their kind of woman," she murmured. Darius tilted her chin gently. "You're more than enough. And they'll see what I see." She breathed deeply, then nodded. "Okay. Tomorrow night. 7, he said warmly. The next evening, Maya stood in front of her small wardrobe, panic rising. Nothing elegant enough. Until she pulled out a forgotten garment bag, inside, an emerald green gown her late mother had bought years ago. She laid it across the bed, whispering through tears, "Mama, you'd love him." Earlier, she had also bought Lena a pink dress with pearl straps. She wouldn't go without her daughter. By 7 p.m., the apartment glowed with cocoa butter and perfume. Maya's gown shimmered with every step. Lena twirled in her dress, beads clinking. When Darius knocked, he froze at the sight of them. "Wow," he breathed. "You two are stunning." He drove them through winding streets until marble lions and golden lights announced a grand estate. Maya's eyes widened. "You didn't tell me you were this." "Would it have changed anything?" he asked softly. "No," she admitted. "You never asked," he smiled. Inside, they were greeted by Mrs. Okafor, regal yet warm. "So this is Maya. Even more beautiful than I imagined." She hugged Lena. "And this must be our little princess." Mr. Okafor was quieter, kind but formal. Then Adiz, Darius's teenage sister, whisked Lena away within minutes, the two bonding instantly. Dinner was elegant, Chinese rice, shrimp, fine wine. They asked Maya thoughtful questions, and she answered with quiet confidence. Later, Darius whispered, "You're not going home tonight." Lena perked up. "Can I sleep in Adiz's room?" "Of course," Adiz grinned. Maya showered, then slipped into one of Darius's shirts before heading nervously to his room. He looked up from the bed, surprised but pleased. "I need to tell you something," she began. Her voice shook, but she spoke, about her virginity, her promise to save herself, about Lena not being her biological daughter but Celine's child. She told him everything, how she gave up medical school, how she chose Lena over her own dreams. For a long moment, Darius said nothing. Then he knelt in front of her. "You raised a child who wasn't yours. You gave up everything, and still you keep giving." He touched her cheek gently. "You're the strongest woman I've ever known. And the most beautiful." Tears blurred her vision. He wrapped her in his arms. "I love you, Maya." Her lips trembled. "I love you too." That night, while she slept peacefully in his arms, Darius stayed awake, staring at a velvet box on his desk. Inside sparkled an emerald-cut ring. Tomorrow, he would propose. By the next afternoon, after a quiet lunch with Lena, Darius drove them back to Harmony Crescent. The sun dipped into warm gold as they reached her porch, and Maya froze. Sitting there casually, as though the past hadn't fractured everything, was Celine. Maya's steps slowed. "Celine," she whispered, uncertain if it was real. Sensing tension, Darius quietly lifted Lena, who was already dozing, and carried her inside, leaving the sisters alone. Celine looked healthier, steadier, but her eyes still carried ghosts. "I didn't come to cause trouble," she said softly. "I saw you and Lena today. I had to speak." Maya folded her arms. "I saw how happy she is. You did better than I ever could have." Celine's voice wavered. "After Mom and Dad died, I spiraled. Edward, the guy I was with, encouraged it until he drained my inheritance and left. Then I found out I was pregnant. When I held her, I knew I couldn't do it. I panicked. I trusted you more than I trusted myself." She swallowed hard. "I've been clean for 2 years. I work at a rehab center now. I'm not here to take her. She's yours, always has been. I just wanted you to know." Maya's walls cracked. She stepped forward and hugged her sister tightly, tears trembling. "If you'll let me, I'll stay in touch," Celine whispered before walking into the Lagos dusk, fading like a shadow. Inside, Darius wrapped Maya in his arms. "Forgiving her took courage," he murmured. "I didn't do it for her," Maya admitted. "I did it for Lena. And maybe a little for me." "Good," Darius said with a smile. "Because tonight, I'm taking you both somewhere." Exactly 1 hour later, he returned with 2 boxes, a flowing red satin gown for Maya and a glittering lavender ball gown for Lena. "For my queens," he said with a playful bow. By 8 p.m., they stepped into a venue transformed into a glowing garden of fairy lights and rose petals. Familiar faces lined the room. Soft jazz floated from a saxophonist. The scent of jasmine hung in the air. Darius led Maya to the front. Then he knelt. Gasps rippled. Maya froze, one hand to her mouth. "Maya Adeyemi." His voice thickened with emotion. "You are extraordinary, strong, selfless, loving. Loving you, loving Lena, gives me purpose. I want to walk beside you as husband, as father, as forever. Will you marry me?" Tears spilled. Her knees buckled as she cried, "Yes. Yes, 1,000 times yes." The room erupted in cheers. Lena ran forward, hugging their legs. "My mommy's getting married," she squealed. Darius kissed Maya as if sealing a lifetime of promises. Weeks blurred in a flurry of preparations, dress fittings, cake tastings, dance rehearsals. And then the day arrived. The cathedral glowed with crystal chandeliers and ivory roses. Guests rose as the doors opened. Maya appeared, radiant in a crystal-stitched gown, a silver tiara crowning her curls. But what drew gasps was Lena, walking proudly beside her in a puffy white dress, clutching petals and beaming. They walked together, mother and daughter not by blood, but by love deeper than lineage. At the altar, Darius stood tall in a cream and gold tuxedo. His eyes locked on Maya. "You look like heaven," he whispered. The vows were sacred. He promised to love her and Lena as his family, to build, to protect, to cherish. When the pastor declared them husband and wife, he kissed her like she was both his beginning and his future. The reception glittered with music, fireworks, and joy. At one point, Lena tugged his sleeve. "You're my daddy now, right?" "I always was," he whispered, lifting her close. That night, back at the mansion now their home, Maya found an envelope with her name in his handwriting. Inside was an admission letter and full tuition for medical school. Her knees gave way. "You remembered," she whispered. "I never forgot," he said softly. "You gave up your dream for Lena. Now it's time to chase it again." She turned, eyes shining, and kissed him with everything she had. That night, she gave herself to him completely, heart, body, soul. Months unfolded into steady joy. Maya balanced medical school, motherhood, and marriage. Darius tucked Lena into bed each night, reading stories. Their home echoed with laughter and peace. 2 years later, the auditorium thundered with applause as Dr. Maya Okafor walked the stage. Darius and Lena cheered the loudest. That evening, curled on the couch, Lena asleep across Maya's lap, Darius teased, "You've been glowing lately. What are you hiding?" She bit her lip, slipped her fingers into his. "We're having a baby." Time froze. Then he spun her in his arms, kissing her breathless. Our baby, he whispered. Maya placed his hand on her stomach. Lena's getting a sibling. Darius looked at her, at their daughter, at the future. And in that moment, he thought the same words he had whispered once before. I will love her for the rest of my life.